Welcome everybody to another edition of the Shout Out to You show. I'm here with my guy FG Weez. I'm here with my guy Daniel Heavyset 89, and we got a special episode for you guys today. Again, if you guys want to listen to any of these, we are on every place you listen to your podcast: Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube podcast, all that good stuff. And then if you want to see the visuals, go and hop on YouTube where you can see the visuals and everybody's face. You know, as I spit this hot fire and everybody start talking about something else they want to talk
Man,
about. But how's y'all weekend going so far?
we good. We chilling, brother. I can't complain. It's been a very well needed, relaxing weekend. The weather ain't been too crazy, despite it raining and being hot at the same time. I don't know what was going on Saturday. Like, yeah, I'm new to the area I'm in right now as far as long term. So I'm seeing stuff that I didn't see the first time around, and it's ridiculous as far as this weather. But for the most part, it's been real copacetic. I can't complain. Blessed and highly favored.
There we go.
Hey man, I've been in a heat wave over here in Atlanta. It's been 90 degrees plus for like a week or two straight. I'm dying, but everything is going pretty well here. So going good at work, going good at home. So I can't complain. And the AC is
No,
working, so that's all that matters.
I wish we was at 90 degrees. We out here in the oven right now. It's 100 plus,
On a
100,
Oh
daily.
yeah, that's
110
right.
plus.
On the daily.
Oh my
Ain't trying
God,
to do nothing.
I'm preaching to the choir. My bad. I it's because I'm comparing it back to where my family is in Southern California, and there it's like 75, and I'm expecting it to be hotter there normally, so I'm thrown off.
It
Nah, I
was
feel
like
that.
100 and some degrees when it was raining. I was like, oh no,
Ooh,
that's a different type of humidity. And then it stopped raining, and it seemed like the rain made it hotter than that. So I'm like, yeah,
yeah,
it don't make no sense.
it didn't
Bro,
even
I
rain.
feel
It's
like
just
there's some
steam.
steam is crazy.
Theme is crazy, but he
I feel
not
like it's
wrong.
my karma, dude. Cause like back in the Bay, like it'd be like 80 something. I'd be like, oh man, it's so hot out here, man. It's crazy.
What?
We
I
melting.
That's so fun. I love living in the Bay Area, man. No matter what,
That
you
sound
always
like
got a
weather
little bit of
privilege.
breeze. It was
It was,
amazing.
dudes,
That
just,
sound
we
like
were
weather
out here wearing
privilege.
jackets and sweater in the summertime. That's how you know, like it ain't that bad. But we was over there complaining. I come out here, y'all just live here in 120-degree weather. I don't know how y'all do it. I don't know how y'all survive out here walking like it's casual. Dudes just outside, a good time with full sun on them. I ain't doing all that.
Nah, man.
Nah, but it's people out here walking around with hoodies on, like real jackets on. Like, do you not like? What are you doing? You about to pass out? Like, it don't make no sense, bro. It don't make no sense.
We're not doing all that. But we got to talk about a few things today, y'all. I got some shenanigans for them. But the one thing we do know that we're gonna talk about today is that new Eminem album that Daniel had brought up. I'm looking at Trey's face. I know he didn't listen to it, but I'm talking.
I
Oh, you
did.
listened to it?
I
Okay,
did. Yeah,
okay.
yeah. I
So we
did.
talk
I
about
was on the assignment.
that new Eminem album that came out that everybody's going crazy for or hating, depending on what side of the spectrum you're on. Before I give my opinions, because I can get long winded at times, Daniel, I'm gonna let you speak because I know this is something that you wanted to bring up, my brother. So go for it.
Hey, man, it just came out. I figured we might as well hop on it while it's fresh. But he's one of the biggest rappers of all time, so I mean, it's hard to ignore that. But yeah, I listened to it maybe one and a half, maybe twice through now. I have a really bad habit of like skipping through songs on people's albums, so I'm almost kind of glad that I saw something online about he said make sure you listen to it in order because it's a concept album. So it's funny because we had just done the Good Kid, Mad City review and how that kind of again had like a consistent theme and concept and stuff, and we had all kind of touched on the fact that that's not as common now, or at least I remember I was like trying to remember another album that had been like that. And so, especially in hip hop, usually it's just more like, they get a bunch of beats, they like something they hear, they rap on it, and they keep it pushing. It's not a lot of people, aside from guys like Kendrick, that are really even thinking that far ahead. Like, okay, this is the whole concept. This is going to be consistent throughout. And I do I guess I prefer that at the end of the day because then you have, you know, again some sort of consistency throughout the same album. It feels like they actually like put some effort into it. So for this one, I will say that I'm not gonna say like it's anywhere near like his classic albums or anything like that, but I would say that it's seems like the most effort and like thinking ahead. And I like that it was even for some of the stuff where he's just trying to like push buttons or whatever, it like um it didn't seem like just like punching down like a lot of people might say or whatever. It was like a concept, you know, with Slim Shady, like I don't know, kidnapping him or coming. I don't even know how Slim Shady comes back to exist in the same room as him or whatever, but clearly that's like the general gist of it. And he's like trying to get him canceled or whatever. So at least it had like um I guess a reason to be just saying stuff or whatever, which is to me is always better than just someone like just trying to be edgy for no reason, that sort of thing. So I don't know what I would give it as far as like a 10 out of 10 score or anything like that, but it's probably the best album from him since Marshall Mathers LP2, which came out in like 2013. Um, but but yeah, I don't know. I think I'll probably listen to it, you know, 2 3 more times. You know, there's some songs on there that are pretty good, but you know, it's nothing that I'm not gonna call it a classic or anything like that. But I did think like, oh, this is refreshing to hear something a little bit more thought out. And but yeah, I'll go ahead and let y'all speak on it.
Trey, you go first. I
So
can tell
I'll
by your
start
face.
there. I'll start there. That's first. Second, uh, I don't want to sound too nitpicky, but I'll try to keep this as leveled as I can as far as my review. I hear you, Daniel. I understand you, and I appreciate your thought process on where he was coming from with this album. It is something that is to be appreciated as far as your stance on it. As far as mine, I feel like he really could have kept the first half of this album, and the second half alone would have made a better album. I feel like the intro, I like the intro. I feel like it set up a vibe of something that I was expecting that I didn't get probably until I would say Fuel. Now, with Fuel, I like the aggression of the song. I like the vibe of the song. Me personally, I feel like Toby is the best song on the album. I like that he incorporated a Detroit feel with it. I feel like that was Big Sean's best verse of his career, but that's a conversation for another time.
Get me
That's a
started on the song.
conversation for another time.
Get me started on the song.
But now to the nitpicky part. Like, my biggest problem with Eminem is I've always appreciated his lyricism. I'm a fan of lyricism. Let's start there. Sometimes I just feel like he tries too hard, man.
Mm-hmm.
He tries too hard, man. Like a lot of the punchlines he had throughout the album, I felt like was not just a reach, but a cringy reach. Like it was some lines on this album that just had me like, I can't skip this song because I gotta be honest, but I will not be coming back to this. Like I don't know, man. I've besides that, like his beat selection, I've never really been a fan of his beat selection. I feel like Eminem's problem is the same problem that a lot of people have with Nas, as far as his beat selection and his lyrics. Like I get you, I hear you, I feel you, but this is not something that I can just. It's not of replay value, and I feel like this album is not of replay value until you get to the second half. Like I said, the second half, I like the second half. I feel like he was a lot more toned. It was a lot more structured. He was a lot more Eminem. He wasn't trying to reach, trying to fit that. How did you say, Daniel? as far as like the structure of the album and so on and so forth, like basically the creativity behind the album. This is the concept that I'm going in with. This is how I want it to sound. I feel like the first half he was reaching too much towards that and leaning too much into that towards the second half of the album. Once you got past Fuel and the rest of the songs, like I feel like he calmed down a little bit. He got more into his bag, and I enjoyed that. But as a whole, if this is his last album, like how I've been hearing, I really, I feel like him coming off of Kamikaze would have been enough, me personally. And that's as kind as I can put it because truthfully, I was going to bash this album coming in, but I had to be fair because, like you said, as far as the concept, I get it, but a lot of the stuff was just overly reaching. Like a lot of the lines, a lot of the punchlines, a lot of the songs, as far as him trying to fit the Slim Shady character again, I feel like it's over with, bro. And some stuff you should just leave alone. It's like a lot of things people say about movies. A lot of things didn't need a sequel, and I feel like this didn't need. It's as far as he's come from that character, as far as he's come from those demons that he battled while being that character, as far as he's come just from his music, he probably could have left that alone because him trying to fit back into this character really made this album unnecessary to me. And yeah, man, I'm gonna just leave it at there with that. I appreciate him and what he was doing, but this was not good for me, and it was not good to me.
I mean, I don't see Mike no more, but I have the same reservations or concerns with it as you do, man. To be honest, and actually, I'm shelving some of those concerns, or not shelving them, but like brushing them aside specifically because of it has like the shield of the
Mm-hmm.
concept in front of it.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, it's funny you said the back half is better. I kind of have the same feeling where it's like once it I don't really know where the turning point is, to be honest, but like I guess maybe in the first half, like Slim took over or whatever, and he's just saying all kind of random stuff. He's repeating the same stuff over and over. There was a lot of I agree with you wholeheartedly. That's why I didn't want to give it a score because I don't really know how I feel about it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I'm happy there's a concept, but I also do feel like it is like weighted down by the concept. If it
Mm-hmm.
was just more like good beats and just rapping
Mm-hmm.
good, it's like kind of more preferred. Yeah, I was just saying that he's kind of like shielded by the concept itself to be just doing some weird stuff, reaching and weak punch lines as Slim. And I do feel like once we get away from that, it does get better. And then the only thing I wanted to mention is you mentioned Fuel is probably one of the better highlight tracks, or at least I feel like that's one of the best songs, and especially
Fuel and
because
Toby.
yeah, well, I like Fuel a lot better just because I don't know why. Just it's a little bit more. I've made it clear a bunch of times. I like stuff that just kind of has some bounce to it, and you can listen to it as more traditional, like a more fun beat to listen to. I would say on Fuel,
Mm-hmm.
whereas Toby kind of is like it's one of those songs where it's like it's kind of feels like it's warming up half the song. It's a little bit more slower.
Man, I feel totally different about that song, bro.
Oh,
Listening
really?
to that song, it made me want to like actually get a beat on and just start rapping again. I feel like I could have hopped on that verse with him and killed that. I love that beat. I love
It's
that beat.
good.
I
I don't.
love Baby Tron's verse. Like I said, y'all think I'm playing, but I really think that was one of Big Sean's best verses of his career. And
I know we know you're not
you
joking.
can say that as a good thing or a bad thing, either or. I won't agree or disagree with you. It's just one of them things. It is what it is. Like yeah, but and then even Eminem, I like Eminem's verse on that song too. You could tell he was right in his pocket with them on there, and that's why I feel like it. I feel like Fuel was a lot more aggressive. I agree with you. It's a lot more of a bounce, and I don't disagree as far as if you would put it either A or B. I feel like it really could have went either or. But outside of that, I like Toby. Just me personally as an artist, I like that a lot more than Fuel. Not saying that Fuel is B C D. It could be one A, one B, one B, one A, either or. Those are just the two best on the albums that I came across. And it's just funny that both of those are on the second half of the album. I don't feel like he has a Fuel or a Toby on the first half of that album at all.
It's on you, Mike. We kind of started talking because you disappeared for a second.
I'm a, I'm gonna say this. Okay, so when it comes down to his album, Listen to the whole thing. No stops. I just ran all the way through. My honest opinion of the album, I'm gonna say, I actually really like the album. I'm glad I seen what you posted in the group chat when you said it's like a conceptual album from start to finish. Everything has to go in order, which thankful for that. I didn't skip anything through, so I can understand what was going on. So I understood the concept. We were talking about previously, like you said earlier, Daniel, about the Kendrick thing, about having a concept from start to finish. Recently we did have a really good concept album. It's called "We Don't Trust You," and it's a complete concept about hating Drake. But that's another story. So we're gonna talk about when it comes down to this whole album. I like the album. There's a few songs in the album that's a complete highlight of everything. Toby was good. I'm not mad at Houdini. It does give me old M vibes, so I'm not really mad at Houdini. I get the concept. Slim comes back. Slim is trying to take over. He's trying to cancel Marshall's career, and he's saying stuff to do so. Like he's saying a bunch of stuff that honestly we wouldn't say, but like it's to the point where I don't know. I feel like for me, and this is just me speaking for me. Like again, I like the album. If I were to rate it out of 10, I'd give it a pretty decent 7. A pretty
Wow.
decent 7.
I'm about the same.
Wow.
I'm giving it a pretty decent 7. But for
Wow.
me, I can't go any higher than that because I just feel like when I was listening to it, a lot of times I was like, all right, and we get it.
Exactly.
All
Yeah.
right, all right, all right, my man, we get it. We get it. You can't say I'm not even gonna say it. The F word. We get
Yeah.
you can't call kids the R word. We get you can't do this. We get you can't say all this stuff. I get cancel culture is annoying to a lot of celebrities who, built their name off these terms and everything like that. I get it. I get it. I get it. I understand it. And you can call me a hypocrite because I guess no, you can definitely call me a hypocrite because I know Dave Chappelle kind of does the exact same thing where he has his shock value. I just feel like, and this is gonna sound terrible, and I know people could get upset. I just understand Dave's more when he explains it and the stories behind it. I understand what Dave is coming from. When it comes from M, I'm just like, all right, bro, like you had these beefs. Like he brought up Ja Rule again. He brought up
Mm.
Benzino. I mean, yo, like my man, like you've won those battles. Like we don't like it'd be like if Drake doesn't say anything to Kendrick in the next 5 years, and then out of nowhere Kendrick come up with a Drake bar, and I'll be like, hey, why'd you even have to? You won, like you won. I got it, like you won. So a lot of times he said something, and I was kind of just like, hey, yo, M, I get it, man, I get it, but a few albums in a row, I don't need to hear it. I don't need to hear it multiple albums. Like I get it now. Some of his more heartfelt songs on there, I can feel it. Like his song to Haley and a bunch of other things. Like I felt those. Um, Definitely not something I would add to the playlist. Being honest, but I felt those. I definitely understand why he did it. It wasn't for me. Those songs weren't for me. But like, yeah, there's some of the songs do have replay value. Some of those songs are gonna sit there where they're at. I'm not mad at the album. I definitely wouldn't add it to a classic. It's definitely a cool mid tier for him. It's not bad. It's not terrible. It's not amazing, but it's a decent body of work. It's a decent body of work. It's just a lot of times like a lot of the concept and stuff you're saying. Like I've heard you say these things before, and it's like to a point where it's like, yeah, you sound like the old dude on the soapbox. Like I get it. Like I can't say this no more. Or we can't do this anymore. Like I get it, but like I feel like you're, and this is gonna piss off a lot of hip hop heads. Honestly, you gotta say M's top 10 artist of all time, top 10 hip hop artist of all time. You got to. Now you can rule him out. It might be not be your flavor. To me, I feel like he's a top 10 hip hop artist of all time. You can even put him in your top 5. Um, I just feel like you have so much talent that like I can get more from that. Like if he like when he did Kamikaze, and I was like, all right, Kamikaze's dope. I get the concept of that. You upset because everybody hated Revival, so you going at him. Kamikaze was fire. And then you gave us Music to Be Murdered By. And I kind of felt Kamikaze vibes. And I was like, all right, you still upset, my G. I get it. Some of the songs in there were still good. I feel it. But this one, I understood the concept. I understood the concept. So if the reason why I gave it a 7 is because I understood what the concept was. Because I know one of the songs, um, I guess Marshall and Slim are having a conversation, and Slim is pretty much saying, "Yo, like you got rich, famous, and all this stuff because of me, because of what I was saying, and now you trying to cast me aside and say I can't come back here." And so Marshall's like, "Nah, we can't do this." And then I can see the mental battle in between. So I get the concept. I think that concept is dope. I know we've had a few artists who use the little alter ego thing in albums. I think Nicki Minaj did it once before.
Yeah.
Ti did it with Ti versus Tip. So we got the little alter ego versus the man type thing or the woman type thing. So I got that. But yeah. So I got the concept. Some of the songs were dope. That's why I gave it a 7. Um, it's just one of those things where like if he comes out with another album, I don't want to hear about MGK. I don't want to hear about cancel culture. I don't want to hear about this and that. Like, give me something new. Like, what you up to, brother? Like, what's up with life now? How's life cracking for you? You don't give me none of this. And I know, oh, they hate the woke me and stuff like that. Like, what is woke? Woke is not a thing. Can we put that away? Woke is not a thing. But that's just me. That's how I felt about it. Album was cool. I'm gonna put some stuff in the playlist. I'm gonna put a lot of stuff not in the playlist. I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it, and that's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say about that.
I'm kind of I'm kind of disappointed in the both of y'all, man. Mike, I'm a little bit more disappointed in you than Daniel because I feel like me and Daniel kind of lean towards the same way about the album. I just disagree on a rating that y'all agree on as far as the album goes.
What's
I
your
feel
rating?
like not a 7, but it's not below probably a 6.5. And I say 6.5 only because it's a concept, so I understand the direction. So I'm not gonna put it at a 6. I have to give it that half a point because it's not like we don't know who Slim Shady is. So this is just Eminem dropping the album. Like it's like how you say it. Like we get it. So I understand. So I would say it's a 6.5. It's harshly and sometimes it's fairly. Is y'all judge other artists, not even to put names on it, but just the way that y'all judge other artists, it just feels like you more so, Mike, are being very lenient with this album. I feel
I don't
like
think I'm being lenient.
I know not lenient as far as not being fair, but I feel like being lenient as far as you're leaning too far into the fact that it's a concept album. So, with that being the excuse of the reach of the album, I feel like you're not really judging it how it needs to be judged. We all know, and I feel like we all can agree that he could have done a better job with this album, even with the concept that he was going in. It's a lot of
100%.
stuff throughout this album that is just unnecessary, and I get it, and I feel like
Agree.
that's a good observation as far as pointing out that song that he had between Marshall and Slim Shady. I feel like he probably understood that in a way, so he used that song to draw it together. Like this is why I'm reaching the way that I'm reaching, but it was just the way that he was going about it. And I don't know if it's just recency bias as far as we haven't heard that side of him in a while. So now that it's coming back, it's kind of like, but I just feel like as far as the album itself, and again, I'm trying to say this in a nice and understanding way, as far as the album itself with the concept that was applied to it, I still feel like okay with him going into this Slim Shady character, he leaned too far into it, trying to be like, okay, this is still Slim Shady. But even with him coming out with Slim Shady, like it was more of an aggressive tone. Yeah, it was a different time with the way that he was going about it, but he's trying to force it now. And I feel like you can hear it in the music. Instead of just hearing it in the lyrics, you hear it in the music. He's trying to force it throughout the whole first half of the album. It doesn't really get stable to me until the second half of the album once he's piecing everything together. But if you're gonna do it like that or go about it like that, once you get halfway through the album, as far as me, in my opinion, you kind of lost me as far as the concept. Now I'm just listening to the music because I'm getting tired of hearing it because so much of the music besides the sentimental stuff that was throughout the album and like that, but so much of the songs was still just pointing to the same thing. Like you mentioned, the cancel culture, the slurs, like okay, we get it, but that same reason that you're saying, not saying that I don't agree with your opinion, I'm saying your opinion is the reason why I would rate it below a 7. Putting it in a 7 is saying like okay, it's not the best album, but I would go back to it and listen to it again. It's not really too much besides maybe about 3 or 4 songs off of the whole album that I went back and probably didn't save to my playlist, but I did download them to my phone. So outside of that, I'm not going back to this album, and that's just me personally. It's probably a lot of people that's gonna feel different about it, but I couldn't get into it. I couldn't get comfortable with it.
Yeah, yeah, I would definitely listen to it again. It's not something that like I would go back to instantly,
Mm.
but it's definitely something like I would definitely listen to again. Because my 7 is solidly just on some like I get it, I get the concept. I felt like in some parts you delivered. I felt like in some parts, eh, but like I just I don't know. It's one of those things where it sucks for him because he has such what's the word? He has such a high like what's the word I'm looking for? Uh when
The
he drops a
expectation,
project, he has a high expectation. So
yeah.
it's like it's super high what the concept is. And when the concept was it's gonna be Marshall versus Slim, that's something that honestly would have been really dope years ago
Yeah.
when his hype was like really high. That would have been a really dope concept album years ago. I get it
Probably right
now,
after Rebirth. If he would have did something like that after Rebirth, that would have been perfect. That would have been
100%.
perfect.
Wait a minute. Rebirth is that's a Lil Wayne album. Which uh you mean Recovery?
The recovery. My
Recovery.
apologies. Recovery.
Listening to
Recovery.
Rebirth.
The
Yeah. Look.
prom
Yeah. See.
queen, the prom queen.
Yeah.
No, I
But
feel
yeah,
that
like
that'd have been
right
dope.
after recovery, that would have been perfect. But quick
That'd have been
question,
dope.
man. Quick question. What do you rate Good Kid, Mad City? I mean, not Good Kid, Mad City. What do you rate To Pimp a Butterfly?
To Pimp Butterfly, I'm biased on that one. That was a 10.
Okay, okay. It's a 10 to me as well. But I was gonna. A lot of people probably would rate that as a 7. So I'm gonna say if To Pimp a Butterfly is 7, then on what scale are we rating this Eminem album? Because I just feel like it's a lot of leniency. And then I was shaking my
Actually,
head. Oh, go ahead, Daniel. My
no, I was
apologies.
gonna say I have the exact same question. I was kind of
Yeah.
sitting on it, which is how do you guys, and maybe this is something that'll kind of help us for like future reviews. When you talk about like some of the numbers in between 1 and 10,
Hmm.
it changes drastically depending on who you're talking about. Because there's some movie reviews or music review channels like on YouTube and stuff where like
Hmm.
a 6 is actually a good score, because a 10 is like the best movie ever, So it's
Yeah.
or I'm sorry, album I should say. But as an example, I'm thinking of like dang, what's his name? The Needle Drop. Um, the Fantano, that guy, I'm talking about, bald head.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he, when he gives an album like a 6, that's kind of more like for other people that would be a 7 or an 8. That's actually like a good review from him, which is crazy. You think of a 6 out of 10 in terms of like the grade point scale, like when you're in school, as like a D. So I guess it just kind of depends. So where are y'all at? Like, where do you put those middle numbers? Like, where is your actual like average number, and where is your like, okay, this is pretty good, but not a classic? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, I agree. I agree. Exactly with what you're saying. That's why I'm like a 7 for me is like kind of high. Like
Okay, that
it,
makes sense
it,
then.
it's so
Yeah.
many. 7 to me is average. I would rate it exactly like how we are gonna grade it in school.
Okay.
Like a 10 is a A. Give it an 8 out of 10 is a B. To me, a 7 out of 10 is that's like it's average. It's not a bad album. The album is a good album. It's not your best album. It's not up there with your best albums, but it's an album that's it's gonna chart still, and it's still gonna do numbers. For me, my 7 is probably on. I don't know the person that you guys were talking about, but how you say his 6 is like a lot of people's 8s and 10s. Like my 7 would probably be a lot of people's 8s and 9s. So I'm like a 7 is kind of high to me. A
Yeah.
six and a
Okay.
half is not a bad album. It's just not some like I see, especially because I said 6.5. Like I see you reaching right there for it. I seen the concept of it, and it's not a bad album. I get it. The beat selection throughout is not for me, just me personally. A lot of the songs, like I said, it's just not for me personally. But I did enjoy a lot of the music, so I can't hate on the album in as a whole. Like I said, if he just shortened the album to the second half of the album and still found a way to incorporate the skits and the concept alone, it would have been a way better album. And that probably would have been my 7, 7.5, so on and so forth for my range personally.
Okay. I can see that. I mean, seven, 6.5 to 7. We're not too far off. We're not too far
We
off.
not, we not.
I can see your point on that. For me, I have to rate an album by I have to, and it's hard because I have to rate an album by artist. I have to rate an album by feel. Well, there's like artist, feel, emotion, beat selection, lyrics. Um, I know from artist itself, it's kind of hard and it sucks because some artists, like I said, we put on a higher pedestal than others. So like when you give, like I gave Lil Yachty's Lil Boat like a 6 when I first heard it, 6.5. And it wasn't that the lyrics were great. I mean, the lyrics are absolutely doo doo, but like the way
No.
like his delivery and some things and the way some beat selection was and some things were at the time, like I was like, okay, this is not bad. This is
Yeah.
not it's not the best, and it's not something I'd say, oh man, if you want to listen to the other set little boat, it's not the best like that. But at the time, I was like, yo, this this is the best of the worst. This is not too terrible. Like
Yeah.
it was like I was listening to it and I was like, what song was it?
Um.
I want to say his intro.
Yeah. It's like one of the first. It's like, bitch, it's Lil Boat and Lil Perry. Something, something,
That's one
something.
of the songs.
It's just
But
like
one of
it's a vibe. It's nothing to do with anything good lyrically, for sure.
like his flow
But then
on
again,
one
you're only
song,
comparing them to itself, so that's
I
it's fair.
100%
It's
because
fair way.
True.
I can't compare him to nothing else. What song is? I think it's the intro because he was like, his delivery was crazy. Like he was like, I got some straight voices inside my head. Keep a stacking 380s inside my bed. Not to, and I was like, oh, this is you. And then he started singing on the last part, and I was like, yeah, the rest of the song is trash. But
Yeah.
like some of his stuff, like I was like, okay, it's not bad. Like I mean, what's that one song? One night. I'm not gonna lie to you. One night's on the playlist. I'm not gonna hold you. I fucks with one night. But a lot, a lot of the other stuff, like there's some stuff on there, like it was dope. Cold Lake, Minnesota was cool
He
for
got
a
a
few
Sprite
months.
commercial out of that,
Had a
man.
whole Sprite commercial. Like it was like, all right, like I get what you're doing. Like I'm just having fun, like whatever. So I didn't really
Yeah.
rate it in a serious scale of like, let me break it down like this and that because I was like, oh my man, you're not really taking this seriously,
You're not
seriously.
gonna
So
compare Lil Yachty like an Eminem.
exactly,
That's
No.
fair. That's fair.
exactly. So like each artist I listen to, I gotta rate like from your body of work, what's best. Like there's some Lupe albums that I will straight up be like, you should hear something else. Like that's not his best work. Like, and I'm a Lupe fan hardcore, but I would never. Uh, there's one. It's not Drug Us Wave. I actually like Drug Us Wave. Drug Us Light. I wouldn't tell anybody to listen to that. I wouldn't tell anybody to listen to that. Like I ran one time through, and I probably have one song on my playlist. And honestly, if it comes on, I probably skip it. I 100% probably skip it. It's not his best body of work. Lasers, as much as I like the concept of lasers, The way the label kind of put their fingers on it, it didn't wasn't his best body of work. Did he have a lot of radio play from the album? Absolutely. That's what they wanted. Was it his best work? No, a lot of people think that's the fall off of Lupe, and they kind of like stopped listening to him after Lasers. They didn't hear all this other stuff. So I, and especially how I have him on a higher pedestal when it comes down to lyricism and beat selection and a whole bunch of other stuff. I rated those like extremely low, and no artist himself is gonna rate his album low. No artist himself is gonna rate their album trash. But like to me, like I was like, okay, I can't really. I expect more from him or better from him, so I can't do that. So yeah, each artist kind of gets their own little thing. I can't really because I don't want to compare, and I think that's the worst thing to do is compare artists to others because some artists will never reach the height of like a Little Wayne or an M or a Jay Z or a Nas to some people or just a bunch of other artists. Like they'll never reach that top. So if you keep comparing them to that, it's just not gonna happen. But for me, yeah, a solid seven. It's cool. I know in like a few weeks, like I always do, I'm gonna go back and re-listen to everything all over again just to see if I felt the same way about the songs that I liked before. If I don't feel that same way, it is what it is. But I usually in a few weeks, every time a new album comes out, I listen to it through, and then I give it another listen a few weeks later. But then again, that's why it might drop down from that seven because if it's a fire album to me, I'm gonna rock it through for like 4 weeks straight. Like I'm still listening to Lupe's new one.
Mm.
I'm gonna rock that thing wholly straight. So the fact that I gotta give it some time to breathe and then go back to it, it might not even be a seven in the next few weeks. It might not even be a seven. But he does have
Man,
some tracks that do carry, and he has some tracks that definitely kill momentum. Kind of like I felt like about the I'm not bringing this up to bring this up, but like the Watch the Throne, how there's some songs on there that just kind of just took the momentum out, and I was like, yo, like
Yeah.
you was on a run this song, then you just kind of just dragged this one. No offense, Beyonce, but that one song was absolutely doo doo.
And
But
but just real quick, man, I was shaking my head while you were making that Dave Chappelle comparison because it's like I don't really feel like you can compare that, not even the back pedal, but I don't really feel like you can compare that because it's like Dave Chappelle, he don't hide behind his gimmick.
no,
This is the same guy that turned down all that money and got up out of here. Like I'm not about to be dealing with y'all. Like it's not even about the money. This is about my sanity. This is about my own peace of mind when it comes to this industry and the way that y'all going about it is not cool for me.
yep,
Like that's somebody that really stood on his principle throughout his career, which is why he should have surpassed a lot of people. But you feel me? Everybody know about Dave Chappelle, but he really should have been up there, up there. Not saying he not now. He's still a legend, but he should have been far bigger than what he was, especially after the Chappelle show. But it was never about the money. So he's somebody that stood on principle. So when he can come back and say the things that he's saying, he don't care about getting canceled. Like I canceled myself. It wasn't about the money. So me getting canceled, this is really how I feel. For Eminem, whether that's really how he feel or not, I feel like he's hiding behind that concept. So for him to be like, "Oh yeah, just throwing him out there," oh, but it wasn't me, it was Slim Shady though. Like,
yep.
nah, bro. That's not you standing on your principle, and
I think
that's
he
what I
said that in a
mean.
song too.
Yeah,
He said that in
that
one of those songs too.
that's what I mean by I feel like he was overreaching. Like either you're gonna stand on it or you're not, and that's kind of what made it cringe for me. That's why I was shaking my head like, "Nah, we're not gonna do Dave like that." I highly disagree because I feel like throughout his career after, I would say, I really do agree with you off of that Kamikaze because Music to Me Burger 2, I really caught the same vibe, but I feel like throughout his career, it was consistency in his music. And then, right, going into kind of Kamikaze, it took me a while to get into that album, but I really got into that album a lot. So that's one that I can defend. I really wasn't too big on Music to Be Murdered by. So that's kind of where I feel like that's where the reaching started for me.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on especially with the whole like there was parts where I was like some of the stuff he was saying, like to me, it wasn't even 100% clear. Like, is this supposed to be Slim Shady saying this? Is this Marshall saying this sometimes? And like you said, in terms of using that to like hide behind it, even if he is acknowledging it out loud, like, oh, that's Slim saying this or whatever. Like Mikey just kind of said that he kind of touched on that or indirectly or like alluded to that in terms of like kind of having like that protective layer around him because it's like like you just said, Weez, like is he feeling this way, and that's his opinion being filtered through or not even filtered through, I guess I'll go back to the term I use of a shield, so that he can say some stuff that he really feels but through Slim. And I did have that issue as well where it's kind of like what's the term, a shock jock, you know, like Howard Stern back in the day and stuff. Is like you just saying stuff just to say stuff to like, you know, poke the bear, piss people off, whatever.
100%.
And it's like, you know, I think that I'm in agreement with you guys in terms of he didn't need to bring this persona back, even if it was for the concept of, you know, killing him off or whatever. Like, oh, this is the last time you're gonna see Slim Shady or whatever. But it wasn't like I don't know. I felt like it could have been done in a better way. And actually, I'm not gonna like lower my rating all of a sudden, but I already forgot which one of y'all said that. I think it was Mike, you bringing up like Ti versus Tip, and Nicki Minaj she's got Roman and Chun-Li and a bunch of other personas, I think. But but that's the thing though, is like, now that you said that, I'm like, dang, I guess this concept has really been done already. So maybe it loses a little bit of points for originality on that front. And I just I don't know, man. I definitely don't think this one has that much replay value. I will definitely go back and listen to it because there's some stuff on there that I like kind of want to go back and like, all right, this is what I really like or don't like. So, you know, in terms of maybe adding it to a playlist or something. But Kamikaze was definitely much better to go back to. And actually I want to touch on something else. I think it was Weezer said it about beat selection. He has had that issue for a long time, and I don't know if it's like separating from like the first, you know, few albums when he was probably just like with Dr. Dre or whoever, you know, top tier production like constantly. And I just feel like his beat selection is definitely not as good, and it may be because he gets to make more decisions now. I don't know. And then also some issue that he doesn't really have as much on this album, but has been bothering me for like the last, I don't know, 3 to 5 albums, is like there'll be like a hook with like a pop star or something, and it just don't fit. Like Stan is one of the few songs where you have a hook from like more of a pop. I don't know what Dido is, but you know, it's kind of like that hook just only makes sense for that song. But if you just were to throw something like that and trying to be sentimental or whatever, or like, I don't know. I guess if the song's not like heartfelt enough, like these songs, you know, directed towards his daughter or whatever, like it don't feel sincere. It feels just kind of like you're catering to like someone with pop ears, you know, so to speak, that may want to hear that. But it's like, I'm a hip hop fan. I don't want to hear that. I want to just hear you rap, and I don't even care. Like, you could just do the hook. You know what I mean? It's like Get Rich or Die Trying. 50 Cent's doing a hook on damn near the whole album. So it's like, you know, I just prefer that, you know. I don't really need some pop stars coming in or that type of vibe. It slows down the music to me. But this album didn't have that much of that problem. There's other issues more with the persona being involved, and I just feel like maybe there was less of that. I mean, I don't know, what is he supposed to rap about at this point. I think he did this out of necessity in his head.
Wasn't that the issue with Revival? It was Revival, right? That had all like the pop. He had like Ed Sheeran and Beyonce and
that
Pink
song's
and
terrible.
Random stuff on it. Like,
yeah, Revival has that problem big time.
that was
None
a
of
tough
those.
one.
Yeah, that is a tough one. And
if this is how I would have fixed it. This is how I would have fixed this album. He has some Slim Shady songs that are just like fun, just him being an asshole type music, that maybe if you would have done that, it would have been good, because it would have been like Marshall's the more serious, like the more serious artist, and Slim's the more, you know, real Slim Shady. I'm trying to think of some other songs. Just Lose It. There's some other ones that come to mind. I can't think of the title of the song, but
You
he has
saying that
those
are more
songs.
comical?
Yeah, the more comical kind of have that vibe of where like, okay, because like Houdini kind of had that vibe where I was like, okay, is he doing it to where Marshall's the more uh Marshall Matters LP kamikaze type artist, and then this person and Slim is gonna just give us those tracks back to back where he's trying to cancel himself or something like that. But the songs will like go like that. Maybe that would have fixed it. I don't know. I just felt like it was just at times it was a little too much. Like I'm not one of those people who are just like, oh, I'm so sensitive now to the ears, but it gets to a point where maturity sets in, and a lot of artists. M is one of those cases where, uh, because of his fan base, because of his flow, because of what he can do, he does put out songs where you just like, yo, M's one of the greatest ever. So like, he's not going away, but he has that niche to him where a lot of people don't have. A lot of people like when Cole said in shit, what's that song?
Fire Squad, Firing Squad.
Nah, this it's another one. Off the one album that no one listens to no more. Sorry, Cole. KOD.
You.
What's the last one?
Not cold breeze.
Oh, the 1985, the intro to the
1985.
Fallout.
Yeah, 1985. Because
When he's talking to Lil Pump.
yeah, so he mentioned something in there like, those fans that you had before, they're gonna grow up, and that stuff that was hot then is not gonna always resonate with them. So it's like M was one of those rare people where when we were growing up, like he was hot. Like some of the stuff he talked about and some of the stuff he's gone, like yeah, we was blowing that up. Like I'm gonna say something to a lot of people, and everybody can disagree with me. I don't care. I know some hip hop people or some people who call themselves hip hop will go on and be like, we never played Eminem in the hood. Yes, I was hearing Eminem in the hood, so I don't want to hear that stuff. All right, I don't want to hear none of that stuff. We never played Eminem. Trying to discredit him, I'm not gonna allow that. But I will say a lot of the stuff that he's one of those artists, a lot of stuff that he was saying back then, no, it's not going to translate now to the newer fan base. That's not what they want to hear. That's not what they're on. It is what it is. But he does have this niche where he can pull out a few songs that keep him relevant or in the space of, okay, Eminem is still out here. He's not died out like some other artists where, I mean, shit. Nelly been putting out albums and a few other artists been putting out albums and ain't nobody listening to them. There's no offense to Nelly. No offense to the other artists. It's just what the space is. Like the songs that were hot then aren't really hot in the space now. So he's one of those rare people who can do that. But a lot of times where there's a lot of rappers where they had their run and we don't hear nothing from them. And it's funny too, because I'll see these BET, TV1, whatever music things, and they get on and they talk about their run and stuff, and they'll be like, yeah, man. So I'm still out here producing music, and I say, you producing music? you, you still making music? You still out here? What album you got?
That's
I remember.
crazy work.
What's my guy's name? Murphy Lee. Oh my god.
Yeah.
What the hook gonna be? Because I don't need no hook
We
on
not
this
gonna do
beat.
Murphy like that. We ain't gonna do
Murph's
Murphy
still
like that.
coming out with music.
But oh, I wish we had the time to get into this
Murph's
conversation,
still
bro.
coming out with music.
It
I
was
was a
done. It
big
was done
Murphy
so
Lee
wrong.
fan.
I'm saying, Mike, Murphy
I
was
was a
hard,
huge
and he
Murphy
should have
Lee
been
fan.
bigger than what he was. And that's a
I was a
whole nother
huge Murphy Lee
conversation.
fan.
Murphy Lee was hard.
I think they did him dirty, but I
Dirty.
was a huge Murphy Lee fan. And to find out this man was still making music, like I know we can get into like I said, we can get into a whole thing. Like I don't know if y'all ever listened to I don't know if you guys ever listened to JoJo, that singer. Uh Too Little Too Late. I forgot the other one she had.
JoJo
Um
was big when I was growing up. I didn't listen to it personally, but
so she
a lot of my cousins did.
her first album
Talking
was
about
like
the one
fire
that
fire.
sang with Bow Wow.
Did she sing with Bow Wow? I'm not sure.
Um,
Sure. I think Bow Wow
But
came
I
out with
know
an
who you're
album
talking
recently.
about though. A lot of my
But
cousins
yeah,
listen to JoJo.
but like we don't know like everything's going on in the background, but I know her label pretty much like held her hostage. Like she couldn't
yeah,
make any music for years. And so like labels can definitely kill somebody's career, like
absolutely.
on Vert.
They
But
shelved her
like,
for like 7 to 10 years or something like that.
which is crazy, took all her momentum away. And I know she's releasing music now, but it's like, damn, like no one, if you're not like a fan of hers, like in that space of where like you just following up on everything, you don't know they're releasing new music. But there's so many artists from back then that released so much hot music that you don't even know if still releasing music. Like who was it? Was it Ashanti too? I seen that she had some other albums that came out, and I was like,
Who
it's
knew?
Well,
like,
she's
damn.
about to release a baby with Nelly. Yeah, JoJo was good. I just remembered she had that song with Bow Wow. It's called "Baby It's You." So she was good. But sorry, go
Don't
about
get me
back to
started on
Ashanti.
Bow Wow. Don't get me started on Bow Wow. Stop bringing Bow Wow up. This man,
Still
this
trying.
man, this man out here making do rags. I don't want.
Man, hey, Bow Wow is who Chance need to be. So if you gonna like, y'all need
I'm
to cut it out. Start branching out
crying.
and getting some other business deals, brother. It's over.
Yep.
Chance needs some
And
do
Bow Wow
rags.
needs to sit down too while he out here still trying to drop freestyles. Like, let's not do that, Mister 28
He
years
said
old and you about 40 something. Like, let's cut it out.
he
Like,
said he gonna try to make another lottery ticket, which is crazy.
hey, do that. Act, do rags, but leave the rapping alone. Leave the rapping
He
alone.
like
Hey, I ain't gonna lie. I bought one of bro do rags. This is it's you feel me? It's good product, good product. But hey, you feel me? No, the rapping that's a no no. Let's leave that
like
alone.
Soldier Boy had this the Soldier console or something like that.
He said,
Yeah.
"You got do rags, Bow Wow." Like, and that was one of the greatest beefs ever. I kid you not. Even
This
going
man,
back to when they first started, man. Like, oh, see, that's a whole nother conversation. Go ahead,
that
buddy.
is. Didn't Bow Wow have the video where he had the little sound effects
Yeah.
in it?
Every time he said something, it was like, duh. Add effect to it. Like, bro, no, man. And how all his goons taller than him. Like, if you don't cut it out, bro, all he's standing in the middle, the shortest one. Like, all right, see,
He
it.
should have
Oh
kept a
man,
little.
oh
Hey yo, hey, that's what which is crazy. Talk about artists who like were hot and like Lil Zane. Do you guys remember Lil
man. I
Zane?
remember. I remember Lil Zane.
I
It
don't.
was a
Lil
battle between him and Lil Romeo on who to like. Yeah, man.
Oh
Yeah, man.
wow.
It's crazy. It's crazy. It's
Lil
crazy.
Zane said his career like took a stumble when he dropped his like his out after he dropped his like his one of his best albums. He came out with another album and he said it's gonna be called Big Zane Theory. And he said his label said, okay, cool. So you dropping the Lil Zane, which at the time there's so many Lils because everybody be in the same spot. Cause you know, at that time, like and some of y'all listen don't even want to get into this conversation about physical sales and these streams that are going on. It just completely changes everything.
Yeah.
But he had it to where, you know, it was Lil Zane, Lil Wayne, Lil Romeo, Lil Bow. They're all in the same section because of the L. So when you went into that section, they was all in the same section. So he changed his album to like Big Zane Theory. And so his label's like, okay, cool. So you want to drop the Lil. So they dropped them in Zane. So it was like Zane, Big Zane Theory. So they put his all the way at the end, and nobody was going to check for Z's. So that's why this thing had like a record low. And I was like, hey, yo, the setup is real, my brother. The setup is real.
Man, and then going back, because you made a really, really good point on just the maturity value, and not just Eminem, but just artists, period, in general. Like, as you grow older, your fan base is gonna grow older too, and I feel like the good and the bad thing about Eminem is that there has been a very niche fan base that Eminem has had, but he's one of the very few to where that niche fan base that he has is very, very loyal. A lot of artists don't have loyal fan bases. You hot, they love you. As soon as you start falling off, all right, whatever. Throughout Eminem's career, his fan base has traveled with him through his good times and his bad times. So with him getting older and his fan base getting older too, that same fan base you're releasing to your point, Mike, eventually it's like, okay, what else? Weird. All right, we heard it. What else can you do? we know what you're capable of because we're gonna be loyal. We heard it before. We know what you're capable of. But okay, what else are we gonna do? And I feel like that's always been the good and bad thing in his career. Now, the reason why I feel like I'm real nitpicky on this album is because I'll put it like this: a real one song will bring understanding to my feeling behind this album. Guilty Conscience, the first Guilty Conscience that he dropped. I love that song. I seen the track list for this album, and I seen Guilty Conscience 2. My expectations, to your point at the beginning of the pod, Mike. All right, now okay. I don't really recognize a lot of these names that's on here, but I see Guilty Conscience 2. I know how I
Mm-hmm.
felt about Guilty Conscience 1. This is a album that he's bringing his Slim Shady character back. I love it. Let's get to it. Once I got to that song and got to that song, I was like, it let me down. It let me down. And that alone will tell you my feeling behind this song. If y'all heard Guilty Conscience 1 and y'all just listen to Guilty Conscience 2, y'all understand, I'm sure.
Okay. But you said
Yeah.
one thing that I want to mention. I don't know if you want to say something, Dave, but I just want to say this real quick. You said one thing. You got to find out what that space that made you hot and get back to that, right? So you hear him chant, you got to find that. Yeah, find that space. That,
Peace, man. That's gonna become a running joke on this podcast.
Chance,
Hey,
they
who
believe in
fault
you,
is
brother.
that? Who fault is that? That is
Chance, they
that.
believe in you,
No,
brother.
which way? That is that man's fault. That is that man's fault.
They
Mister, let
believe
me
in you,
drop
brother.
these chance links in the group chat. Like, bro, hey man, look, hey, business wise,
Chance
we
four.
don't want no smoke chance. You
Four
feel me?
hats.
You invited to the pod, man. Like, don't cancel us with the higher ups, man. We trying to blow this
Absolutely.
thing up and all that, brother. We're giving
Chance,
you
we believe in
friendly
you.
advice as supporters, man. Leave the music alone. Don't drop another album. We don't want to hear what you went through after the divorce. We don't need that for your comeback. Leave it alone. If you are gonna come back, hop on somebody wave, ride it for as long as possible, because you are not going to get your own. And I'm telling you that as a fan, brother.
Right.
I love your Netflix special. I'm still waiting on season 2. Season 1 was about 10 years ago. So it's like, man, you feel me? Bring us some Netflix specials, brother. That was fire. I mentioned last pod, you the new age Ryan Seacrest if you want to be. Like, come on, brother. So do us this favor. If you want to
Chance, don't
talk
do
about
you
it,
like that.
if you want to talk about it, come to the pod, man. Join the
Come to the
pod.
pod. Chance, I believe in you, brother.
You know,
So you dropping
it's
a
all
new
support. It's all love over here. A new what? It better not be a new
a
album.
new
A
a
new
new
three
album
hat. A new
called
three shirt.
a new album called Alimony. Well, I
Leave that
have the
man
same.
alone.
Yeah, I do feel like anybody could fall off. Anybody. And Eminem has almost fallen off 2, 3 times. It's just even in his worst albums, technically speaking, like from a rap perspective, it's sound. You've never, even when he's lost his damn mind, clearly on drugs, like what is it, Relapse, and some other albums doing all these crazy
Yeah.
accents and stuff like that. I'm sure you guys have seen that clip of Tyler the Creator praising that album with how like well put together it is, like lyrically or whatever. So it's like it's it's tough because when you expect someone to do so well, the rapping, how good he can rap. And I do agree with what you said earlier. We like sometimes he's just trying too hard. Like even some of the songs on Kamikaze, like when you get to like the third verse or like towards the back end, he just was like, all right, now that I did like the regular verse, let me just rap as fast as I can to the point where the average person who doesn't listen to hip hop has literally no idea what I'm saying, you know? Unless you got an ear that you've been listening to rap forever, you hear you it's just like you play that to my parents or something. They're gonna be like, I have no idea what he said. So it's just like you can rap well,
Yeah.
but that wasn't what you started off at. You started off as being an incredible storyteller, and it just so helped or benefited you that you were very good at rapping, you know, and beyond just the rhyming the last word in the sentence. You know, there's rhymes in the middle. There's multiple pieces of the lines are rhyming and stuff like that. So that's always like cool. But again, like, you can put out Kamikaze and you really impress, and then you can do music to be murdered by, which is just good rapping, but it didn't really, there was nothing that jumped out at me like, dang, I can't wait to listen to this again. Um, and on this one, I have the same issue where I'm probably not gonna like re-listen to this album that much. I'll still, it's new, and if I don't got nothing else going on, and the playlist kind of spits back what you just recently listened to, because I just usually do like an automated, play whatever's next type of playlist. I don't really pick out my songs and only listen to those. But yeah, I do feel like there's so much more that could have been done to tighten this album up, and to not be, like you said, reaching and just trying to be like a shock jock and say stuff just for the sake of saying it. And again, I do have that issue where I'm like, some of this stuff I feel like he just kind of wanted to say and get away with it, you know. And I just feel like that wasn't entertaining to me. But I don't know. I'll give him same as you, Mike. I'm probably going to go back and maybe lower my score just a little bit because I'm already thinking about some of the stuff in my head. Maybe I'm being influenced by some of the stuff in the combo, but I do feel like there's some, at least maybe a half a point getting knocked off already before I even go back to it. So hey, we tied, man. 6.5.
Yeah, see, I'm telling you, because
Nah,
I
it's just
really did try to listen to this album, and I wonder, Mike, it sounded like you had something that you was gonna say. I'm gonna let you go, but when you done, I do want to ask y'all a question because I noticed
yeah.
something with M that I brought up with Kanye as well. So go ahead, my bad. I didn't mean to cut you off, brother.
No, you're good. I just say it real quick. You get to your point. It just seems like it was just one of those things where like he just said a bunch of things that we've heard before, and then hit us with the. But it's slim, and it's like,
Yeah.
all
Go ahead and
right,
knock that
man.
half
But
a point down too, man. Come on.
it's like, all right, man. But what we gonna bring up?
Okay, so y'all don't notice that Eminem kind of follows a pattern the same way Ye does. Like you know how when we were speaking on Ye, we agreed that a lot of Ye's music, as far as the patterns in his albums, has been based off of the women in his life. So
True.
I feel like with Eminem, y'all don't feel like Eminem kind of chases hits, kind of going back to not all the way the shock value thing, but in a way, the reason why I'm saying this is because, okay, let's go past the whole Slim Shady era. What came first from Eminem's catalog? Was it that song that he did with Rihanna, or was it that song that he did with Dr. Dre and I swear I can't think of her name right now. I think her name was Skylar Clark when she was like in an incubator or whatever, swimming around
Oh,
singing.
the I Need a Doctor,
Yeah,
Skylar Gray.
yeah, Skylar Gray. What was it? The I Need a Doctor that came first, or the that Love the Way You Lie he did with Rihanna?
Was it I
Dang,
Need a
I
Doctor
don't.
verse? I don't.
I
I
think,
don't.
yeah, I'm leaning towards I Need a Doctor came out first, but I'm a
Okay,
little.
Let's see
so
what
no
Google's
worries.
for.
Either or. It both pretty much follows my point on what I'm asking y'all. So now I Need a Doctor drops. It blows up, goes crazy. Now Love the Way You Lie drops with Rihanna. It blows up, goes crazy. Now to your point, Daniel, a lot of his music following that is coming afterwards is that same sound, just the pop star on the hook,
Hmm.
him just trying to find that same sound and chase that same record. Now, obviously that falls off. That's not working. So now, okay, let me figure something else out. He comes out with Rap God. Rap God comes out, goes crazy. Now a lot of his music is just rapidy rap. Let me just prove everybody I can rap better than him. Even though nobody's a lyricist nowadays, that's not what nobody is listening to. But now, let me just rap better than him. I'm gonna show them I can rap better than him. Every album is gonna be me rapping better than him and rapping fast. So now it's like, okay, now that's going on for so long. So now he comes out with music to be murdered by. Music to be murdered by is not really doing what it can do. Now, one or two things are gonna happen here. Either this album is really not gonna do what it's supposed to do, so this may either be his last album, or we may not hear another album like this from him again. If this album does numbers, so I guess it's a two-part question. Do you not feel like Eminem kind of follows a pattern of chasing his last record, for one, and for two, do you feel like if this record does good, that he's gonna keep chasing that same shock value that you mentioned, Daniel?
I mean,
Be- Before
personally,
you before you
go
answer
ahead.
that question, Love the Way You Lie came out in 2010. I Need a Doctor came out in 2011.
Right after another. Okay,
Oh,
right
okay.
after each other. Bet. This
So
is
Love the
Unless
Way You
Google lied
Lie
to me.
was Recovery, and then I Need a Doctor. I don't even know what album that's on. That is a
Yeah,
single.
Love the Way You Lie was Recovery, and
And I got confused because I forgot he did a second song with Rihanna, um, Monster, which is
yeah,
on
it was a
Marshall Mathers
single.
LP2. I don't remember where I Need a Doctor came from. I think I might just be a single or something. I don't remember
Yeah,
even that being on an album.
it's a single when everybody was trying to get detox.
Can't wait for that to come out.
Hey, coming soon, huh?
There's kind of a, it's not the Detox album, but Dr. Dre did make a album. I think it's just called Compton, and that's the closest thing to that. I would say I actually kind of enjoyed that album.
It
I
wasn't
don't know if
bad.
y'all.
It's detox with a different name. That's all because he
It
know
Oh,
wasn't
okay.
detox
bad.
is gonna be heavily criticized, so he just dropped it with a different
Mm,
name. He
that is
wasn't
smart.
gonna drop that album under detox and then everybody be like, "Oh, this is what we've been waiting on, just this." Like, ain't nothing special about this. And then if he drops it under a different name, it's just okay. Yeah, this is a pretty good album. So it's just detox under a different name.
Yeah, they
But
tried to
yeah,
cancel him for that album too.
how do y'all feel about that though?
Dan, I'll let you go first.
My bad. Refresh my. I spaced out.
Nah, no worries. I was asking. It was a two-part question. So the first part was, do y'all not feel like Eminem follows a pattern of chasing his last hit? And then the second part of that question was, what was the second part of that question? The second part of that question was, if you feel like this album does good and this album does numbers, do you
That's
feel
right.
like he's gonna keep chasing that same shock value that he has throughout this album?
Um, I mean, anything's possible in terms of chasing the shock value because I mean, he's his whole career and persona, even without necessarily the Slim Shady specifically, has always had some of that. You know, he's always name dropping people and talking mess and all that kind of stuff. So I do feel like there's gonna always be an element of that in what he does, just because that's just kind of how he operates. But I really, really hope um and I do kind of agree with what you just said about kind of chasing the last album. It's almost like, you know, there's geez, I feel like half the time at one point on whatever album he mentions the name of the last album in some capacity, like, you know, I think
Yeah,
he, you know, on Recovery's mentioned Relapse, on Kamikaze's mentioned Revival, and you know, so he's always kind of like always reflecting on that and bringing it back and trying to like, all right, you guys didn't like that, let me do this, and constantly like kind of recycling. But as far as my personal opinion on whether he's going to bring this uh edgy stuff back or at least in the shock value or whatever, like just like on this album there's a lot of buttons being pressed for literally no reason outside of the whole, you know, it's Slim Shady doing it and he's fighting with him or whatever. I think it would be foolish of him to market this with literally the name the death of Slim Shady and then just to keep bringing Shady back. It's like I really would prefer that you don't do this ever again. And I also agreed to Mike's point earlier that this probably should have, I think it was Mike, you said this should have been done already some years ago. Who said that?
yep,
Now I was saying that it should have been done right after what we agreed. What was it? Revival.
yeah. We said it should have been done after relapse.
Recover or
No, no,
recover.
no, no.
Relapse.
Recover, recovery.
After
Recover. Yeah.
Recovery.
Recover. Yeah.
Yeah,
It should have been
yeah,
done
that
after
does make a
recovery.
lot more sense timeline wise to have done something like this. But I do fear for like what future he could possibly have because it's like I don't want him to keep bringing this stuff up or wrapping
No,
this, you know, with shock value. But it's like, what can this dude really talk about that's going to be relatable or interesting? You no longer have you know, when he first started out, it was like you're, you know, like an underground guy that just made it mainstream with Dr. Dre, and you're like going from being broke to being rich as hell, and you can make a, you know, an album or three about that transition in your life and all that stuff. But now you're at a point where, I mean, what's he going to talk about that we haven't heard yet? You know, you've already rapped about everything that's ever happened to you. It's like, I don't know. It's like it is kind of giving me some concern. It's like, what can you really do at this point? And I
bars.
would hate. I would hate for this to be his last album, just on the fact that I agree with what I think you said. We like, if this is going out on this ain't the classic you should end your career with. You know,
He needs to go out on bars. Like he needs
Rap
to
about your career.
to answer your question. Yes, he does that, and hopefully he doesn't come back to that and does it again. But if he really wants to do something like coming up, like honestly, dude, he has a great knowledge of hip hop. Like he's not one of those you could say culture vultures or people who just jump in to rap and then out of nowhere you ask them, so how you feel about this person, that one. This man knows a Cool Mo D, he knows a Big Daddy Kane, he knows all these rappers, he knows about LL, he knows about Papoose, he knows about uh Pac and Biggie and all this stuff. I mean,
He's
we can go on and
literally
on
why we
about
know about Slaughterhouse. Like, come on, man.
exactly.
His
He
his
knows a lot
brain is
about hip
he
hop.
can
His
figure
knowledge
it out.
is vast.
He can figure
So
it
yeah,
out.
if you want to do something, come with the bars. Like get some hip hop concepts or some find somebody to get you some beats that make sense. Beats that like correlate with each other. Not these random little beats where it goes up and down, up and down, up and
yeah.
down. These are the same. Then you out of nowhere you're doing a song for Haley. And I don't hate the songs for Haley. I'm just saying like sometimes it just sucks to air out the room. But it's just find something that makes sense together and just rap on it. Don't hit me with the F word or the R word, anything that like I know you got bars. I know
Yeah.
you come with concept. You talking about rhyming orange and getting upset that people say they can't rhyme orange. I get it. That was funny. Everybody laughed about it. Ha ha ha. I feel like you can actually put an album together where you're just spitting. Now, is it gonna be mainstream? Probably not. Is it gonna go super crazy on the radio? Probably not. Is it gonna do anything? Probably not. But to solidify yourself, and he doesn't even have to. Like he technically doesn't have to solidify himself. He doesn't have to prove anything to anybody. But like, if you want to go out on some like, yo, I'm a rapper, I do this, do that. Spit some like get on a track and just and start flowing. Like I'll be seeing videos of him in the thing, like just he's doing his little hand thing and he's just like randomly rhyming and stuff. He can do that for a whole album. We don't need 19 songs. You can give us a solid 12 song EP, solid 12 song list. Like we don't need the whole thing of you just spitting. And I think the rest of us who are fans and the rest of us who appreciate your career will appreciate that album. Like at that point, you can stop pleasing the masses, or you can stop rapping for them, or you can stop doing that. You have your core group. Honestly, I feel like if he put that out, yes, there's gonna be some people are gonna hate on it because he's not saying the shot value stuff that they love him to say. But I feel like it'd be a good thing for him just to do. Like it'd be fire. Like I definitely listen to like 12 songs of Eminem just spitting bars and just going crazy. Like I definitely listen to that. But that's just me. That is just me. But I do want to do something. I do want to do something. And that I want to make sure that, you know, we end this off on a great note because technically, fam who listens to the show, when I start doing extra stuff, that's when we start getting technical difficulties. So I'm letting y'all know ahead of the game before we start this, we might get some technical difficulties, and at that point, this will be the end of the episode because if stuff start messing up, we're not gonna do all that extra stuff. I'll just be honest with you, you're not gonna be on here for 3 hours. But before we do the extra stuff, I just want to say, apparently Kanye retired. It is what it is, and Kendrick dropped the video on July 4th. So everybody, you know, going crazy on that video, doing numbers. They not like us. It's going crazy.